Real parents, real stories. It's the Meet the Parents podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Meet the Parents podcast. I'm your host Tim from the blog Slouching Towards Thatcham. Every week we'll be bringing you a unique mix of both mums and dads chatting away about a variety of parenting related topics. Real parents, real stories. The Meet the Parents podcast is your one-stop shop for parenting news and views from both a mum's and a dad's perspective. So on this week's podcast, we'll kick off by introducing everyone to my fellow podcast co-conspirators and find out a little bit more about each of them. We're also going to talk about the challenge of moving house and doing major renovations when you've got kids around, and one of tonight's crew has some very recent experience of that. And we'll also get some stuff off our chests, as one of us will kick off a bit of a rant about inconsiderate car parking. Blimey, that sounded so much more interesting before I said it out loud, but we'll do it again. We'll do it anyway. So let's kick off this week's show by telling you all a little bit about the team behind this week's podcast. So I'm going to ask each of us to introduce ourselves by saying who you are, where you blog, a little bit about yourself and your family, and then finally to tell our listeners one thing people don't know about you. So ladies first, let's kick off with Amy.
Hello, I am 27 years old and soon to be working mother of nearly 2-year-old Little Miss. As of last week, we are now country bumpkins. We've just left London and migrated out to leafy Hertfordshire, and I blog at findingourfeet.co.uk. A little known fact about me, I suppose mine is that I sang in a choir for the Queen's Golden Jubilee when I was 14.
I'm just working out how old I was at the Queen's Golden Jubilee, and let's not even go into that. So let's move quickly on to Dave.
Hi guys, I'm Dave, a 29 plus 1 year old, which is how I now say my age, nearly 29 plus 2 year old. I'm a stay-at-home dad to my 18-month-old daughter Elle. Like Amy, we're country bumpkins too, and we live in Hertfordshire as well. I blog at thedadventurer.com, where I usually share my random musings on being a stay-at-home dad. I'm not going to try and compete with Amy, so I'm going to go a bit weird. I don't like the feeling of cheap duvets or the material of the inside of the car roof. How's that for weird? I've sort of got a bit of a weird fear that I'll catch the the bits that hang off your fingers, by your fingernails. You catch that on it, and then it'll pull all the skin off. So, let's go with that.
How does that irrational fear start? Just out of interest.
No idea. I must have touched the inside of a car roof when I was young or something, got it caught, and then...
It's very specific.
It is. So, but it's the same fear when it's a cheap duvet and I'm trying to put the duvet cover onto the duvet, and it goes through me and makes me just sort of like hold my clenched fists is the best way of describing it.
Oh dear. So I'll leave it to Mark to try to follow up after that.
Okay, so my name's Mark Richards. I write bestdadIcanbe.com. That started life as a newspaper column in 2003. Migrated online, and I've been writing about my kids every week for the past 13 years. So something like 650 columns and approaching 500,000 words. In that time, they've gone from 9, 7 and 4 to 22, 20 and 17. So there have been a few changes along the way, a few teenage tantrums, etc. Little known fact about me, a few years ago I had a midlife crisis, as many men do. Tim, you should be about due for yours right now. Had a midlife crisis, decided the one thing in life that I wanted to try was being a stand-up comedian, and ended up on the same bill doing a gig with Russell Howard, who went on to become much more famous than I did. So that's that.
When you say on the same bill, do you mean like you just got up on stage and did like a streak or something like that, just so you could say that you did it?
No, I did about 25 minutes.
So yeah, that sounds a bit too energetic to me. I think I'm probably more of a sit-down comedian than a stand-up comedian. So thanks, guys. Just to introduce myself quickly again, I'm Tim. I've been 21, 25 times, so you can do the maths on that. I'm a father of 3, and I blog at Slouching Towards Thatcher. One thing you didn't know about me that's different from the thing that you didn't know about me last week, among the literally some people who have commented on my blog over the years, are the 1980s singer-songwriter Suzanne Vega and one of the writers of the 90s kids TV show Bananas in Pyjamas, for anyone that's young enough to remember that.
I used to love that programme.
It's like Channel 5 Milkshake. It's still around at the moment.
Is it?
Yeah, they've just gone and like all CGI'd it up, so it's all weird now. It's not like it used to be.
Let's move on to our first topic. So we're talking about moving house with kids. Now, I think all parents would agree that the biggest event in their lives is the birth of their children. But after that, the biggest and most stressful thing most of us will ever do is to move house. So now that's stressful enough in itself. But when you're moving with young children in tow, stress levels can go through the roof, which is what Amy has just done. So Amy, how was moving house with little Miss in tow?
Strangely okay. I think we got really lucky. I'm not gonna lie. It went really smoothly, which my other half says is partly down to my organisation and planning, which I'm just gonna take that and say great. It did go really well. She's been an absolute star. She's adjusted to the change and everything really, really well, and that's where I think we've been lucky, because you can't really plan for that. It felt like a bigger move probably than for some, because we were moving out of London and that was a big decision in itself. But my partner's grown up in Surrey and he's just so happy to be back in the countryside. So yeah, I think it was time.
So what would be your top tips for anyone else that's moving house with a young family?
I've narrowed it down to 3 top tips, and the first one is just organise. I should probably say at this point, I'm quite a seasoned mover. By the time I was 16, we'd lived in 16 houses because we always used to rent and we moved around the world and stuff. But yeah, just everything should be on lists. So that's my first tip. But it's also organising things like, what are you going to eat once you get in the new house, or like in the lead up when you're packing up the other house? Because, we just have a Domino's usually the night that we move in, but obviously I can't give my 2-year-old Domino's really. That's kind of generally frowned upon, and she's lactose intolerant, so that really nips that one in the bud. So for us, we have to plan, because we can't just give her a pizza. Planning to the point where we actually had a suitcase with kind of clothes for all 3 of us for 2 days, and our toothbrushes and stuff like that just went in a suitcase so that we could definitely find stuff the night we moved in. Tip number 2 would be bring the kids on the journey with you. So like when I was a kid, I always went to view the houses we were going to go rent with my parents, and I was part of that decision. Obviously, my 2-year-old is a bit young to do that when she came to view them, but she can't really give her input. So instead, like, she was helping me build the boxes, and she'd help put the tape on the box. And then actually we were lucky that we had white boxes from our company, and so I just gave her crayons, and she literally customised every single box that we had for the 3 days I was packing up the apartment. As I went round, I'd seal a box and then she'd start colouring, and that was lovely. And it really helped her, I think, kind of take in what was going on, because she was part of that. She was helping me put stuff in the box, and like when we were doing her room, I said, what do you want to put in this box? And it was every single box, her Lammy and Doggy, and she has a little rabbit called Mog. We're very aware it's a cat's name. It was named after a cat. Moving on. They all had to go in every single box. You could see she was starting to understand what was going on, and she was very worried they were going to get left behind, which was quite cute. So yeah, I'd say bring the kids, whatever age they are, make it appropriate for them, but bring them on that journey with you. And the third one is, if you can, just get rid of the kids. Like, my mum picked up our daughter once we'd kind of seen the new house and it was empty, just before the stuff came in the movers brought the stuff in. My mum took our daughter away, and she's had her for 24 hours. She spent the first night at my mum's nearby, and we literally unpacked our entire house in 24 hours. It was very, very efficient, but it was so much easier to do without her running around. So yeah, they would be my 3 main tips, really.
Mark, any similar stories with your family, either moving house with kids or undertaking any other major projects around the house?
We've never moved house with the children. We before they were born, we bought big enough house, so we've squidged them in. Although we did run out of bedrooms, running out of bedrooms was the most effective form of contraception we stumbled across. But flat pack furniture, Tim's just the thing for me. I mean, I'm just the world's most pathetic man where DIY is
can we just agree now that flat pack furniture is the spawn of the devil?
Yes.
I mean, we were redecorating my daughter's bedroom. She was about 6. She was just limbering up to be a teenager and decided that she wanted one of these beds where you went up the ladder to it and everything was underneath. This bed was lying on the floor of our bedroom in flat pack form. All 9 planets were in line. The children had all fallen asleep. We'd drunk the right amount of red wine. We'd managed to have a brief sexual encounter without a child coming in and leaping on top of us. My wife said, "That was magnificent, darling." She did. She said, "Go and get me some orange juice, will you?" I leapt out of bed, feeling like a young stallion. Tripped over this bloody flat pack furniture and broke my toe. I was at A&E afterwards, howling like a dog.
This is what happens when you don't practice safe sex.
Quite so, yes, you're absolutely right.
Now, Dave, I know you'd been all organised and you'd even done all the decorating, hadn't you, before Elle arrived? But any plans for the future?
Stay where we are. We're not going anywhere. We've got the house full of stuff now that, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't fancy trying to take a treadmill out of the living room, which is where it currently is because we couldn't get it up the stairs. So that's where it stays now.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to be moving again, at least not in the foreseeable future. As it happens, we moved into our current house about 2 weeks after Heather fell pregnant for the first time. And we did make the move thinking ahead a little bit about accommodating at least a couple of kids, being, close to decent schools and being within walking distance of local shops and the like. So I guess instead of moving, I think we've been doing projects on the house instead. So for us, it's been a project a year for the past 3 years. We had a garage that we converted into a playroom. We redid the main bathroom, and then last year it was the kitchen. So yeah, now living with only a microwave to cook with for the best part of a month, that was an interesting experience. And I think, like you, Amy, we, by which I actually mean my wife, with lots of moral support from me, survived by being organised and having a load of pre-cooked stuff in the freezer. So yeah, this year there's no project. Unless you count doing some repairs to our bank balance. So, there you have it. The Meet the Parents Guide to Moving House. Either be organised and get the kids involved in some way, or don't move at all. Your choice. And now, a message from our sponsors. Are you confused by DAs and RTs? Don't know what an SAHM is? Worried about being caught boast booking? Then the all-new Oxford Bloggers Dictionary of Pointless Acronyms and Expressions, OBDPAE for short, is for you. Guaranteed to be out of date the moment you buy it. Okay, so let's move on to a regular feature that we're going to call Dave's Rave, or at least until someone comes up with a half-decent name for it. So, Dave, over to you to kick us off.
So this week I'm going to talk about something that particularly annoys me. So I like to think that I'm quite a considerate person and will put other people before me, but I found that since becoming a dad that other people just aren't necessarily like that. A lot of them are quite selfish and ignorant and oblivious to other people around them. So this week I'm going to talk about parking. I'm going to look at this from two sides. We're going to start with the people who park on the pavement, and then parent and child spaces, which I know is a big issue of debate. So firstly, the people who park on the pavement. Around where we live, there's a lot of people with cars, and they tend to park half on the pavement, half off the pavement. But on one of the first times of going out with my daughter in the pushchair, I got to a point where I couldn't physically get through the gap of the pavement because a car had parked there, which meant I had to take my sort of 2-3 day old daughter onto the road in order to get past this ignorant person that decided to park there. Since then, this has only sort of got worse. Each time I'm just astounded by the selfishness of some people just parking, blocking pavements. You know, roads of cars, pavements of people. It's not that difficult, is it?
Has anyone else had similar experiences?
Yeah, because living in London was a nightmare for this.
Yeah, it must be. Just to make Dave feel better, the guy who lives next door to us, they've got like 3 cars now because their eldest son has got a car. They always leave one out on the road, parked half on the road and half on the pavement. Somebody smashed into it last night and rose off the side of it,
stuff,
you know,
good stuff.
and then drove straight off, you know. So they're
when you say someone, is this someone with air quotes?
No, someone, you know, someone. No one knows who did it, you know. It just happened in the middle of the night. So there's a proof that God exists, you know.
Well, that's the thing. It annoys the hell out of me because it makes you actually consider. You know, do you purposely scratch the car with a buggy in order to prove a point? A bit like, you know, some type of robot wars.
But it's not just people with buggies. Like, if you were in a wheelchair and on your own, or on crutches, or anything, it's just really inconsiderate for other people as well.
I remember when my son was born, my first son was born. I said this to you previously, Tim, that I could not believe how much I loved that little boy. You know, nothing could prepare me for it. Equally, nothing prepared me for how protective of that child I felt. You know, the first time I'd got him in the back of the car and somebody cut across in front of us and nearly caused a crash, you know, I was absolutely furious. I was beyond furious. And I think, you know, what you're actually saying, Dave, is you feel incredibly protective of Elle, and rightly so, and the protective feeling you have towards your child magnifies how much other people are actually inconsiderate.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it's the fact that people aren't considerate of other people, and you don't necessarily think, oh, what my action, the impact my action will have on other people. As Amy says, whether it's someone who's disabled, whether it's someone with a pushchair, or whether it's, you know, for whatever reason. Well, shall I jump on to number 2 then in that case? So having got people who park on the curb off my chest, I'm now going to look at people who park in parent and child spaces at supermarkets. This to me is a massive bugbear, mainly because I don't understand why people will park in somewhere where they know it's not designed for them. I've never parked in a space when I didn't have a kid, and it's never crossed my mind. So I don't really get why some people get it in the head of, oh, I'm just going to park there for the sake of it. You know, for me, it ultimately comes down to selfishness and the ease of parking there just to quickly nip in the store. And whilst I'm at it, I'm going to talk about people who park in parking spaces which are designed for parent and children who have a car seat, but there's no kid in the car. Just because you've got a car seat, it doesn't mean you're still able to park in that space.
Yeah, so Amy, this whole parent and child parking space thing is a new experience for you, isn't it?
I'm new to this parent and child spaces thing because we didn't have a car in London because we lived quite centrally, so there was just no need, and we got our shopping delivered. And we went to a large retailer near us for the first time, and our daughter had never been in a trolley before. It was all very, very exciting for the family. And we drove past these parent and child spaces, and I was like, oh, we can park in one of them, quick! But there was none available. It was most disappointing.
Oh, it's a big, exciting world that you're going to be encountering now. You know, I have 2 bees in my bonnet, actually, when it comes to people abusing parking spaces in car parks, because I have disabled relatives as well as the kids, obviously. And it is amazing just how flagrantly some people ignore the signs, and also how angry they get when confronted. Now, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I checked, being a numpty who's too lazy to walk another 20 metres did not qualify you as being disabled. And in a way, I almost sort of get it when non-parents don't understand how much of a pain it is to try to wrestle a screaming infant out of a child seat when you can't open the door wide enough in a normal space. But like you said, Dave, I've seen parents park up with empty child seats and seeing them get angry when they've been challenged by a fellow shopper. And there's no excuse for that, is there?
That's the worst of all for me, because they should know better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, and you can't really put it down to anything other than sheer laziness and selfishness, can you?
Yeah, well, that's what I put it down to.
But have you ever confronted anyone in a car park about it?
I haven't. Hayley has a few times, and sort of got the typical, "Oh, what are you going to do about it?" type response. But I'm too scared to do anything like that.
So if money or time or not getting beaten up or the law was no object, what would we do with wrongdoers?
A world of Robocops.
You have 20 seconds to comply.
Yeah, 20 of them in every single car park in the country, just watching out for these blokes in suits pulling up in their Mercs and then, taking them away.
And if you've ever seen me attempting to run, you would know that I run like Robocop.
I think you're going to have to start vlogging, Tim. I want to see that.
No. Face for radio. But I'll tell you for free what I'd do. If I didn't have to worry about trivial things like working for a living or staying within the law, I would buy myself a tow truck and patrol the car park of my local Tesco, picking out miscreant cars, towing them to the furthest corner of the car park, and then deflating all 4 of their tyres. That's what I'd do. So if anyone in the Thatcham or Newbury area would like to subsidise me to do that for a living, I would be more than happy to oblige. But does anyone else have any ideas as to what they might do?
I'd happily settle for them just paying for my weekly shop. Just hand them my receipt.
And that's the weekly shop when you make sure you stock up on nappies and wet wipes and everything like that, so that makes it that 40 quid more expensive than normal.
Well, we're quite into our cooking, so our weekly shop is rarely cheap.
So there we go. Parent and child spaces, disabled spaces. If any of us are near, keep away from them. So before we close, anything else interesting that we've been up to recently or that's caught our eye? So, Amy, obviously we've been talking about you moving house, but you've had lots more good news recently as well, haven't you?
I have. We've got a bit of a firecracker start to 2016. I kind of alluded to this earlier, but yes, I'm starting back at work in 2.5 weeks. After 2 years out of the office. Yeah, it's a massive deal for me. I'm really excited, but I'm really nervous, and yeah, I'm also just so relieved because, as I said, I got made redundant, so it wasn't a choice to become a stay-at-home mum for as long as I have been. As much as it's been a joy much of the time, it is hard when it's not your choice to deal with toddler tantrums every day and things. So, I cherish the time, but yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting back into an office and getting back to what I'm good at. Not that I'm not good at being a mum, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, congratulations and good luck. And I like to think that it was your appearance on my other podcast that was the key tipping point. Yeah,
it really was. Yeah, that was the final straw that made someone employ me. Thank God. Thank you for having me.
How about you?
Going back
You've
full
had
time
that
then, or?
I am, which is kind of the scariest thing. So I was looking for, truthfully, anything and everything by the end of the 2 years. But yeah, it's 5 days a week. But my mum only works 4 days a week, so she's going to take our daughter one of those days. So she'll only be in nursery 4 days, which I think is a nice transition.
Cool, good stuff.
Now, Dave, you've had a particularly busy and exciting week, haven't you?
I have. It's been a bit of a random one for me. First thing, I've taken my first step into the scary world of vlogging. So I published my first vlog the other day, which looked at staying in the life, a day in the life of a
Sometimes
stay-at-home
it
dad.
feels like that.
It does, yeah. If you can make it through the day and everyone's still alive, then that's a bonus. So yeah, I did my first vlog on a day in the life of a stay-at-home dad. So that was quite cool, getting the other side of a camera and sort of doing a little bit of presenting type thing and seeing what that's all about. So I think I'll continue doing that. And the other thing, today actually, I made my first ever radio appearance. It was about 2 o'clock today. I got a tweet asking if I was free at 4 to appear on LBC, talking about fatherhood. So I took them up on that opportunity and had a couple of minute chat with them about almost like the perceptions of fatherhood and whether it's changing. And so that was all very exciting.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so the radio career of the new Chris Evans is born.
Well, we'll see. I'll be trying to kick you out of your spot as the presenter of this soon, Tim. Watch your back, mate.
You're welcome to it, mate. How about you, Mark?
Big thing for me in this past week is that I have sorted out a couple of public speaking gigs, I suppose is the word we're searching for, where I'm doing them with my youngest son. So I'm going to talk about writing about my children for 13 years, and he's going to talk about what it's like to grow up being written about every week.
That sounds really interesting. Can I come?
It does.
Right, so it looks like we're all heading up to you then, Mark. So, me, what have I been up to? Well, not much really. I've been busy setting up websites and social media and so on for this podcast, and the same thing that I pretty much say every week is that I'm completely failing to write the book I've been working on for the last 6 months. And that's it for episode 2 of the Meet the Parents podcast. We'll be back next week, but in the meantime, if you just can't wait a full 7 days to get some more of us, here's where you can find each of us online. Amy.
I'm findingourfeet.co.uk, and you can get me on Twitter at findingourfeet.
Dave.
I'm www.thedadventurer.com, and on Twitter I'm at _dadventurer.
And Mark.
Okay, so I'm bestdadicanbe.com, and Twitter is bestdadicanbe.
And I'm at ThatchamDad, and my blog is slouchingtowards.thatcham.com. So you can download this podcast from iTunes, our website at meettheparentspodcast.com, and a variety of podcasting apps. And do please give us a follow on Twitter at ParentsPodcast, and on Facebook at facebook.com/meettheparentspodcast. So thank you for listening to the Meet the Parents podcast, and we hope you'll be back for more of the same next week. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks, bye.